Hi, Anna. Welcome again. So, we spoke a lot about relationships recently, but we haven't really touched the subject of addictions so much. And as some of us know from our personal experience, addictions are very present, unfortunately, in today's life. They touch the lives of men and women. And quite often, if it's a family home, children are unfortunately the victim of addictions. Can we just briefly focus on that, please? Can we perhaps start from defining what an addiction is and why so often do we observe addictions originating in relationships or unhealthy relationships?
Yeah, Hayla, nice to talk to you again, this time about addiction. It's like, as you said, it is some form of unhealthy coping mechanism. And we sometimes in psychotherapy call it self-medicating.
Okay.
So it means that your addiction somehow covers the pain that you are having, your emotional pain. And in order to not to touch this pain, you try to self-medicate, you try to use any form of addiction to not to feel anything.
Mm.
And
So it's almost like a coping mechanism that we develop in response to a stressor or in response to an event or a situation or a person, perhaps something that is reoccurring. Can you think of what could cause an addiction? Can you tell us 2 or 3 examples of situations or events that could cause addiction in a man or a woman?
now, for sure, first of all, it's childhood trauma, any kind of abuse in your primary relationships from parents. So it can be emotional, physical, sexual, verbal, any form of abuse in your previous relationships. So even if your childhood was quite good, you could, for example, meet a partner who was not treating you in a great way, and then you develop these traumas in your relationship. Yes, it is always in a relationship that you are creating the pain, and it may come even later in life, not during your childhood.
Exactly. Yeah. And how do we, is it essential that when we or our partner, when we come to terms that we might be addicted to a substance, for example, is it important to acknowledge that what was the reason for it? Is it important that we acknowledge it's because of my childhood and it's because this and that happened in my childhood? Does that help?
Yes, in the course of therapy, it usually helps very much to come back to what was going on before and what's happened in in these primary relationships where you were like hungry of love somehow so much that now it's never enough, whatever you are doing, whatever you achieve even. And you're so hungry of love that you can be even addicted to love. So this is what we were talking about last time about codependency. Codependency is a love addiction.
Yeah.
Yet it's like you excessively love the other person so much that you neglect yourself, your children, your dreams, goals, everything. It's one of the form of addictions, compulsive love.
Yeah, it's almost like it feels to me like it's almost like you lose your identity for the sake of keeping this relationship going, right? And
Yeah.
I think so many women are guilty of this, women and men. But as we are both women, we are talking about women
Yeah.
perspective. I've seen this so many times in so many women that I know. This huge need to satisfy him, or satisfy him, or help him, or rescue him. and just being there and always being reliable, always being there as this rescue engine, or whatever you want to call it, rescue service, right? And in the process, what many of us don't realize is that we lose ourselves, and we lose this really precious connection with ourselves, and our dreams, our goals, and our ambitions, and who we were before we ended up in this relationship. So I think it's just important to highlight that. And a question about what better ways are there to help us cope with stressors. So like you said, many of addictions originate from unhealthy relationships that we have with our parents, with our partner, and so on. But what are our alternatives? Like, let's say that we are not a child, we are an adult, and we've identified we have an addiction. What can we do to help ourselves?
So definitely you could use psychotherapy, and through psychotherapy you can explore your primary relationships, what was really going on in your life so far on emotional level. And somehow in one point maybe this like addiction medicine will stop being needed. Like you won't need that anymore to somehow create this fogginess in your life, to run away from your feelings. You start feeling again everything, including pain, because there is also one more thing apart from self-medicating. These relationships, like these addictions in relationships, are also the way of not being intimate to your partner on a deeper level. As you can see, like even compulsive love, you think that you love the person if you are doing so many things for them, but if you are really caring about them that much, about what they want, what their dreams and goals are, you just want to control them and their behavior, but not exactly knowing them, who they are or who they would want to be.
And not necessarily help them to become a better version of themselves, right?
Exactly.
Just going with what's convenient for us.
Yes, and codependency can also even aggravate addictions. Because very often we allow for more, and if we are creating boundary, if we are disengaging ourselves with love, then we give like the strong signal to the person that he has to change. And if you are accepting everything as it is, so it may never change. Another thing is like you can avoid intimacy by overworking, by having, I know, sex addiction or drug addiction, but it can be even religious addiction. So you obsessively focus on religion, reading a lot, listening a lot, that, and it can also be the way of avoiding your partner.
So the way I see it is very interesting. The way I see it is that addiction is almost like your need to fill the gap, the empty gap that exists in your heart.
Yes.
And the gap exists because of a lack of understanding, lack of love, or unprocessed trauma from the past. Is that correct?
Yes, this emptiness is like very huge, and it is so painful that people cannot access it. They don't want to even.
They don't want to face it. They don't want to face emptiness. So they keep taking this substance, whether it's food or alcohol or drugs or sex or anything else, in order to distract themselves from the harsh reality of this huge problem that they're carrying with them everywhere they go. They don't want to face it, right?
And it's also some form of a short-term pleasure over long-term, really building peace in your life.
Correct. So this is super interesting. For those of you who enjoy watching this content, I would like to encourage you to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and follow our channel on YouTube. Again, we are called Virtually Unbreakable, and we have a podcast that posts weekly updates on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and Anna is very often the guest of our podcast. Also, just to mention at the end, together with Anna, who is a couple psychotherapist and a counselor, we are creating a product dedicated for those of you who want to improve your love life. So for those of you who are interested in getting free access to this product, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop me a message. You will see the link to my bio in the comment section. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining us today. And thank you for all of you for watching.
Thank you, Ella. See you soon.
See you. Bye.